The WWE Universe just experienced one of the most jaw-dropping, spine-tingling moments in professional wrestling history, a return so unthinkable that fans are still trying to process what just unfolded. Roman Reigns is officially back, but not in the way anyone could have ever predicted. In a moment that shook arenas and living rooms alike, the Tribal Chief didn't just reappear, he descended like a storm into the chaos of Raw's main event, catching everyone off guard by rescuing two men no one imagined he'd ever stand beside again, his estranged cousin Jey Uso and longtime adversary CM Punk. What was supposed to be a ruthless demolition orchestrated by Paul Heyman's monstrous faction turned into the beginning of something far more seismic. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, the unstoppable forces and central weapons of Heyman's new alliance, had Jey and Punk broken, battered, and seconds away from complete annihilation. The crowd was in disbelief, the air tense with dread, and Heyman had his mic raised, ready to deliver the final verbal nail to the coffin, when the lights dropped suddenly, leaving the arena in complete darkness. Then it happened. A single heartbeat of a drum. Then another. That iconic theme music hit and the arena went into a frenzy. The roar was deafening as Roman Reigns emerged from the shadows, storming down the ramp like a man who had returned from war and come back with a mission. Without hesitation, he launched himself at Bronson Reed, delivering a spear so violent it shattered the barricade and shook the front row. Before Breaker could react, Reigns was on him with a devastating Superman punch that flattened the powerhouse. The chaos was instant. The crowd exploded. Heyman's eyes widened, his mouth dropped, and for the first time since aligning himself with the newer generation of destroyers, he looked completely powerless. Roman Reigns stood tall in the center of the ring, surrounded by destruction, but what came next is what truly changed the game. Reigns, the same man who once exiled his own family and crushed anyone in his path, turned to Jey Uso, his cousin, his former right-hand man, and one of the very people he cast out, and extended his hand. There was a pause, a long, breathless hesitation, as the world held its breath. Then Jey reached out and took it. The two embraced. That alone would have been enough to send shockwaves through WWE. But it didn't stop there. Moments later, CM Punk, still catching his breath and clutching his ribs, stood up and stared down Reigns. And then, without a word, he too took the Tribal Chief's hand. The three stood shoulder to shoulder, united under a banner no one ever saw coming. This wasn't just a shocking return. This was a paradigm shift. This was the moment the WWE landscape changed forever. The questions now are endless. Has Roman Reigns truly turned a new leaf, stepping into a role as a savior rather than a tyrant, or is this simply the next step in a long-term game of chess only he understands? For Paul Heyman, the so-called mastermind who believed he had found a new empire through Breaker and Reed, the humiliation was instant and public. His monsters were toppled, his mouth silenced, and his entire strategy blown to pieces in a single night. Will he now seek vengeance, rebuild again, or crawl back and plead for forgiveness from the very man he abandoned? And then there's Punk, the straight-edge rebel, the iconoclast who has defied authority and tribalism at every turn. Why would he align with Roman Reigns now, of all people? What does this alliance mean for the future of WWE, for the bloodline, and for the war that is clearly just beginning? One thing is certain, if you're not paying attention now, you're going to miss the biggest story in wrestling's modern era. Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and CM Punk are now standing together, and the foundations of every faction, every title picture, and every rivalry are about to be shaken to their core. Subscribe and turn on those notifications, because chaos is no longer coming, it's already here. And now, the only question left to ask is this: whose side are you on? Drop your predictions because the battlefield has been drawn, and the war for WWE's soul has officially begun. The WWE Universe just witnessed the kind of moment that will be talked about for years, a return so shocking, so emotionally charged, and so unpredictable that fans are still trying to comprehend what they saw. Roman Reigns has returned, but not as the power-hungry tyrant we remembered. No, this time he returned as something far more dangerous, a man with a purpose, with a plan, and possibly, with redemption in his eyes. In the middle of Raw's chaotic main event, Jey Uso and CM Punk were moments away from destruction at the hands of Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, the two dominant enforcers in Paul Heyman's new faction. The ring was a battlefield, the crowd on edge, and Heyman, smirking from ringside, was ready to put the final nail in the coffin. Then the lights dropped. A heartbeat echoed. Then another. And in that pulse, everything changed. Roman Reigns' music hit like a thunderclap, and the crowd absolutely lost it. He stormed down the ramp with fire in his eyes, spearing Bronson Reed through the barricade like a wrecking ball before knocking Breaker out cold with a Superman punch. The entire arena exploded. Cameras cut to Heyman, his face pale, stunned, frozen. For the first time, the wise man looked like a man with no answers, no plan, no power. Reigns stood in the center of the ring, a force of nature, breathing heavily, surveying the wreckage. But then came the twist. He turned to Jey Uso, the cousin he once humiliated and exiled, and offered his hand. The tension was unbearable. But then Jey took it. The crowd erupted. And before anyone could process that, CM Punk, blooded, defiant, still breathing, stepped forward and did the same. The image of Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and CM Punk standing together sent shockwaves through the industry. This was more than a comeback. This was a realignment of power. Questions now hang in the air like thunderclouds. Is Roman Reigns truly a changed man? Has he turned face, or is this a deeper, more calculated power play? For Paul Heyman, who put his faith in Breakker and Reed, the humiliation is total. And CM Punk, always the wild card, what does his alignment with Reigns mean for WWE's future? This moment wasn't just history, it was the first shot in a brand new war, and if you're not watching closely, you're going to miss the most explosive chapter in modern WWE. The Tribal Chief is back, but he didn't come alone. He came with a message, a mission, and an alliance that could change everything. The chaos has begun. Whose side are you on? The WWE Universe just witnessed a moment so monumental, so unpredictable, and so emotionally electric that it will forever be etched into the pages of wrestling history. Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, has returned, not as the dominant tyrant he once was, but as a force of calculated retribution, a man transformed by silence, distance, and something far deeper. The moment he reappeared wasn't just another return, it was a seismic shift, the kind that changes storylines, redefines rivalries, and rips the power structure of WWE wide open. It happened during what was already an explosive main event on Raw. Jey Uso and CM Punk, two icons from vastly different paths, found themselves overwhelmed by Paul Heyman's monstrous new faction. Braun Breakker and Bronson Reed, ruthless and methodical in their destruction, had reduced both men to shattered bodies in the ring. The crowd